As Japanese forces occupied Guam from 1941 to 1944, many men, women, and children endured the trials and tribulations forced upon them. Mrs. Antonia Castro was only a young girl during the occupation, and she shares her experiences and memories with us.
We call it Santa Cruz Shrine, but it was registered Atantano Shrine. This was a shrine before the war, long before the war. I was only about three years old. We usually come here to attend Mass when we hear the conch shell, when they blow the conch shell, because we are living right 2 miles away from the shrine. I was almost 4 years old because the war broke out on December 8th, and my birthday is December 29. My mother and I were feeding the chickens on the chicken ranch when we heard the loud boom. And of course, being that young, I've never heard any sound like that before. So I was startled and I jumped up and grabbed my mother's skirt. I almost toppled her over. And my mother was calling out, Jesus, Mary, Joseph. So then we finished, we threw the chicken feed and we ran to the house. And then my mother ran to the clove line to pick up the clove. Then we saw the smoke coming from Sumay.
Though still a child, Mrs. Castro remembers so much about the war and the hardships her family tolerated from Japanese soldiers.
I remember when the Japanese first came to our ranch, they were harsh. I was actually hiding behind my mother's skirt all the time because they grabbed everything. They took even the corn that is not yet ready. They took the corn and they told us to that they are in control of the land and they want everything because their soldiers are hungry. My brother and my sister were taken to the school, every day to make them, and they do exercises and games, and even they were being taught Japanese words. But with me and my brother, who is 5 years old, we were always at the ranch because we were very young.
After 3 years of living in fear, U.S. forces began their campaign to liberate Guam and its people. Mrs. Castro vividly remembers the events she and her family went through leading up to Liberation Day.
We were still at home when my parents heard the news that they are coming. So we gathered our possession. In fact, my dad built 3 man-made cave. We're trying to get away from the Japanese. And then one evening, we walked all the way to Fena Lake. By midnight, we had to travel to Manengun. So, being that I was sick with high fever, my oldest sister is carrying me on her back. But we arrived in Manengun by early dawn, and we saw a lot of smoke tents, built of coconut leaf, and people are a lot of them are getting sick. When the airplanes, the American airplanes and the Japanese were starting fighting above Manengun, and the Japanese scattered, my father grabbed our family and we ran and we hid in the jungle, but he managed to lead us up to the top of Tinghu, right on the top of the mountain. We slept there until early dawn when we descend down, and then when we came out by the road, we saw the American truck came by and they pick us up, and then they put us on Pico Cemetery. It was called the Bradley before. For one day. The next day, they took us to Agate. Nimitz Beach are on the hillside, and that's where they give us a tent and a mosquito net and a lot of canned goods and everything that we need. They built Santa Rita Village, and that's where they took us, and that's my growing years.
Our island's history is marked by horrific events that are remembered by all who survived it. Mrs. Castro truly believes our island community, and especially the youth, should listen to her stories and others like it.
They should understand, they should have more sympathy, more knowledge in the trials, because they don't know if anything like that will happen to them. And I still believe that they should have more, what do you call that? More of the, the feelings, and be able to empathize with the people that went through the war. I'm teaching my children now that we should always, that's why I'm maintaining this place, because this is a very significant place that reminds of long ago, before the war, during the war, and after the war. And it should be known. And it's like a living legacy.
Our Manamko are testaments of the strength of our island's people. They have withstood many hardships and remained strong to the values and beliefs they were taught. We should take a lesson from their stories, because survivors like Mrs. Castro are truly Guam's living legacy. Guahusi Kalins de Nicholas Perez, Ginin Hamini Joint Region Marianas Public Affairs, Dankluna si Jules Maasi, Adios Guahan.